Morning, everybody. Well, this was tweeted out yesterday by Thin Gray Line, and I was interested in this because this is a big story. These dollars are unbudgeted. It's just yet more money on the credit card. We've already got bills coming in, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, just put it on the credit card. It's fine. We'll pay it later. The kids will pay it, right? Kids will pay it off, no problem." So, quote: "The number of illegal border crossers have increased this year, and Trudeau Liberals spent at least $50 million on hotel rooms for them so far. We're only in October, November soon, but." Only in October. So here is Pierre-Paul Huss asking questions.
Security is misleading Canadians. Last week, he said that the number of illegal migrants had decreased and that his government had a plan to address the problem. But from January to September of last year, 15,102 persons entered Canada illegally. And from January to September of this year, 15,726 migrants crossed the border. That's 624 more this year compared to last year. Quebecers are not impressed that the Prime Minister is not taking their concerns seriously. He says he has a plan. Where is it? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, our government has a clear plan for border security, and we invested $73 million to improve border security and to increase the processing of asylum seekers' applications. We have decreased the number of irregular arrivals. We are currently looking at other ways our government can make progress towards our targets. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Public accounts show that on top of imposing a carbon tax on Canadians, the Prime Minister has spent at least $50 million of their hard-earned cash on hotel rooms for people who have illegally entered Canada and who are abusing our humanitarian immigration system. When so many Canadians are struggling to make ends meet, the Prime Minister should admit how wrong this is. Why is the Prime Minister putting illegal border crossers up at the Hilton while increasing taxes on struggling Canadians?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Border Security.
The reality is that government did nothing for 10 years to ensure our security as Canadians along the border. In reality, they cut, Mr. Speaker, $400 million from our border security. We are taking action, Mr. Speaker, with $180 million in investment that will ensure that we have the resources in place to keep our border secure while also providing support to our municipalities who have asked for it, Mr. Speaker. That's what Canadians expect from us, and that is exactly what we're going to continue to do.
So he's saying that, back to blaming the Harper government, saying that they cut $400 million and we're using $180 million to send to municipalities. So that means we're not using it for border security. We're using it to cover the costs of putting these people up in hotels in municipalities that are screaming, we don't want any more immigrants or refugees or pretend refugees because this is insanity. Because it is insanity. Because this is not a plan. And this situation didn't happen under the Harper government. So kicking the can back to Harper and saying, you guys cut, so this is why we're here. No, the reason we're here is because Justin Trudeau tweeted out a stupid tweet that invited the world and said we'd, I don't know, protect them and welcome them. It was all to make Donald Trump look bad. And it made Donald Trump, I mean, for a second, the newspapers reported it that way, but it didn't. It didn't stick to him because Trump, nothing sticks to him. But on the other side, it made Trudeau look like a complete idiot who doesn't know how to control his border. It's simple. And these NPC people are not using their brains. They need to cross the floor. The only mechanism we have in Canada to defect for a government that's not working for the people is having the MPs cross the floor. If enough MPs cross the floor, then Mr. Scheer would be in charge. You can also have a vote of non-confidence, but the vote of non-confidence is going to go party lines and it's going to fail, right? Which is why nobody's introduced it. But if pressure is put on the MPs to cross the floor, that's how you recall a sitting prime minister. That's the only way, right? Especially, well, with a majority, right? A minority, the government can fall if the confidence is lost in the House. And with a minority, that's more possible, right? Like if you've got one party propping up another party, and then they say, hold on, you can't do that. We're going to call an election because the Canadian people should have a say. Well, all of this stuff, we should have a say, especially on the compact in December, which will increase this problem quite a lot because the people coming in under the compact, will have voting rights under international citizenship or something silly to that effect. And there are a lot of people writing about that. It's the reason why a whole bunch of countries are stepping out of the international compact on regular migration, because it removes your sovereignty. It removes your ability to control your borders in a real way. So it's incredible that there isn't more outrage about this. I'm outraged. Here is an interview with Jordan Peterson, and he's talking about Justin Trudeau, and I've heard him have opinions on Trudeau a lot. And this is just one where he just goes off, and I think it's worth listening to, so we're going to listen to it. Here we go. Hold on, that's not the right time. Signature.
Okay, Trump.
Anomaly.
Trudeau, Justin Trudeau.
That I just shake my head at that.
Okay.
Man who capitalized without virtue on the name of his father.
Wow.
Yes, wow is right.
Wow.
If he had an ounce of character, he would have never run. I'm not happy about him. He had no right. Well, he had a right. He's a citizen. He can run. He didn't earn his name. Not impressed.
Why do you say that? Is this specific?
Because his father was very famous.
Sure.
And so that put Trudeau at a tremendous advantage with regards to moving into a leadership position in Canada. It's not excusable. You should move ahead on your own merits, especially if you're daring to do something like run a country. You have a moral duty, if you have the advantage of a name, you have a moral duty to supersede the accomplishments of the person who bore that name and gave it its weight before you dare capitalize on it in the public sphere. And Trudeau did none of that. He knows how to behave. He knows how to act in public. He had the upbringing for it. Other than that, there's nothing there, not that I can see. And if there was, he wouldn't have run the way he did. He's not an impressive person in my estimation.
Some strong opinions there, strong beliefs there.
He appointed 50% of females to 50% of his cabinet because it was, what do you say? Because it's 2015. It's like, no, quarter of your elected members of parliament were female. If your job was to pick the most qualified people, period, regardless of their genitalia, because they're leading the country. You pick the most qualified people. Instead, he abdicated his responsibility to make those difficult decisions and then wallpapered it over with this casual virtue of, well, I'm going to promote women. It's like, no, you're going to promote competent people. You weasel. No excuse for it.
Wow.
And the whole interview is good. You should check it out. The link is in the description. Jordan Peterson, I'm a fan, although I disagree with him on Trump. I think he's missing it, but he's a busy guy. He's writing books and he's, but I've also been talking with other people in the comments. I had an interesting conversation yesterday with somebody, and I found it a really interesting conversation pointing out where Trump has fallen short. And give him time. But I will be, as I said, getting impatient with him if come 2019 and nothing else is done. So we'll see, but give him time. RBC is tweeting about your privacy and its reaction to the StatsCan controversy, the report that broke on Friday and was talked about yesterday in question period. Trudeau collecting your SIM card and your name and all of your financial transactions, 500,000 citizens at a time, because they want to know how you spend your money. Everywhere. So RBC says, quote, RBC protects the privacy of our clients' info, which we'll only use for the purposes listed in our client agreements. Before using info for purposes not listed, we'll first obtain consent. No customer transaction data or other personal info has been transferred to Stats Canada. Well, that sounds great, doesn't it? Sounds good until you look into their client agreements, which clearly state that using your personal information, and one of the bullet points right there, underlined is as required or permitted by law. And this is, as I said yesterday, as far as the books are concerned, legal. The chief statistician has the authority to request and compel every business or entity within a municipality or country, county or anything to that effect, any information it needs. And they're, quote, working with the privacy commissioner, says Prime Minister Trudeau. So good luck fighting that one. But at the same time, you got to get your name in there. I called my bank again today just to remind them that I do not want my information given out under any circumstances, period, because it's private and the government doesn't have a right to it. All right. So here's a YouTube video that was tweeted out. I'm just going to show you about a minute of it. So this is an English town is completely Islamicized. And I thought, wow, that's crazy.
places in Yorkshire, the town was very industrial. While other places were known for coal mining or steel making, Savile Town was known for wool and cotton mills. There was a working class community of English men and women, working their hands to the bone to not only provide for their families, but also for the benefit of the wider society. England back then had a sense of itself, an identity. Everyone knew what England stood for and what an English person was. Now, this historic place is completely Islamized, and when I say completely, I'm not being hyperbolic, I mean it. In the 2011 census, only 48 people out of 4,033 residents were white British. I'm sure that number will be even lower today, and I can't wait to see the 2021 census. The rest of the residents are Muslims. Before we take a closer look, I have a question for any liberals or multiculturalists who may just happen to be watching. I doubt it, but it could happen. Is this your idea of diversity? Is this a step in the right direction? Would you be happy to see the entirety of the UK become like Savile Town in Yorkshire? I honestly want to know, and please try and answer that question as honestly as you can. Because the things that you fight for, the politics you promote, will only lead to this. Think about it.
So, interesting perspective from somebody living in England. And I think watching what Savile Town was and has turned into, this is a generation. This is a generation. And Canada's immigration laws, we're a much bigger country, but our immigration laws, we're bringing in a lot of people, more than the UK. If you've seen Faith Goldie's white genocide video, which if you follow this channel, I linked to it because I looked at the report when she was being called a white supremacist. I wanted to see what this white supremacist had to say. And if you watch the report, it's a well-sourced report, and it compares the immigration level between Canada and England. So interesting. This is written by the BBC, and this is from 2015. And the headline is, quote, "Is the UK still a Christian country?" Good question. I'm not sure. From a religious affairs correspondent. Here's, I came across this. This is a minute and a half and worth watching. And I've been to London. I went to London in 2010 and enjoyed myself, and I felt safe. And I didn't see anything like this. But wow. So if you haven't seen this, well, watch. And you can check the rest of that video out. But here's a news article from 2017 from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Are Christians a threat to the nation? Malaysia is a multicultural nation, but it is illegal to transition, or I guess it's illegal for a woman to transition from being a Muslim to a Christian, according to some news articles I was reading. Interesting. Just interesting, the creep of we go from an industrial mill town in the 50s, 60s, to 2010 census, 48 out of 4,000 people living in the town are Muslim immigrants. Think about that. What's happening? Is this the intent? Is this where we want our nation to go? Because it seems like if we're not a Christian nation, then we have the choice of being an Islamic nation, but I don't think we have the choice of being an atheist nation. I don't think we get that. I don't think we get to be a post-religion nation. And the reason for that is there are very influential religions that won't allow that vacuum to exist, because there isn't a powerful atheistic voice guiding the way morally, or not something that people can rally behind and say, yes, those tenets we can all agree with. And that's not happening, right? What's happening is fracture. What's happening is the teardown of the Christian God in the West. Tell somebody that you're going to go to church on Sunday and see the look they give you. It's interesting. I grew up in a place where fewer and fewer people have gone to church. Just as life gets busy and you have things to do, and sleeping in sounds better to do on a Sunday morning, right? So I used to give friends of mine who said, oh yeah, my girlfriend and I go to church on Sunday. I was like, oh man, really? Wow. That's rare to hear, right? It's surprising. Tell somebody. Also post on Facebook that you like something Donald Trump did. That'll shake people awake as well. It's interesting to think about. And I'm not evangelizing to be Christian. I'm saying in the absence of religion, something's going to take the place. And I don't know that what takes Christianity's place is going to be what people are intending to take its place. I hope that makes sense. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there.